Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this month's live Golf Industry Guru Q&A call. It's April the 22nd. I am sitting here actually in the beautiful Predator Ridge Resort, looking out over the second tee box, watching golfers start to enjoy this warming weather. So no matter where you are in the world or what part of, you're either starting a golf season or your golf season's coming to an end. But for many of us, the snow's gone, spring is happening, and golfers are starting to knock on the door. And I am thrilled to have our guest today because I am very fortunate to get a chance to attend a lot of conferences, a lot of events. And the topic that is talked about most, as you would imagine, is technology. How is technology helping the golf industry, hurting the golf industry possibly? How do I choose? What do I do? Where do I go when I'm making decisions about what kind of technology do I implement into our operations, into our business? And in my search for those answers, I found, in my humble opinion, the guru of golf industry technology, and that is Mike Hendrix of smbGOLF and mostly the Tech Caddie Podcast. And if you're not listening to the Tech Caddie Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, to learn everything about tech in golf, you need to do that, and you need to follow Mike. So without further ado, from Gig Headquarters, Mr. Massey, please let in our guest today, Mr. Mike Hendrix. Mike, great to have you on our live Gig Q&A call.
Well, thanks for having me, James. I'm excited to do this. Hopefully we'll get some good questions and can provide some value to everybody. I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you.
Well, Mike, now I see a little golf in the background, although that's technology that's creating that background image because you're in Ohio, am I correct?
I am in Columbus, Ohio, right in the middle of Ohio, home of Jack Nicklaus. And actually the weather is beautiful today. It's a great golfing day today. A lot of wind, but no reason to not be on the golf course.
The Memorial is not far away.
You are correct. You are correct. Great milkshakes at the Memorial.
There you go. That's for another podcast one day, Mike. Talk about the best milkshakes in the golf course around the world. So Mike, thank you so much for coming and for being on our show. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've got questions, make sure you send them into the chat. But we've got some questions in advance. But Mike, first of all, just share with our listeners your journey into golf technology and about what your company does and what you do. And also, just once again, your knowledge in the golf technology space and your passion for it.
Sure. So let's see. I right out of college, I started buying and selling, like how people flip houses. I started buying and selling Subway sandwich shops. And I did that for maybe 15, 18 years, something like that. And my wife and I wanted to start to have a family. And so I thought it would be a good time to, get out of the restaurant business. I was a little concerned about, will I ever be able to sell this business, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was lucky and I accomplished that. And in the process of selling it, got introduced to a couple people that owned country clubs, not member equity clubs, but two different individuals that owned clubs. And they encouraged me to get into golf. I ultimately, somehow a guy in Atlanta found me, and he was the founder of lastminute.golfer.com, which was actually very popular in Canada where you
totally
are.
100%.
Yep. And so I somehow kind of got lucky and fell into this position where I owned half of Ohio and Pennsylvania and Indiana, and it was an amazing introduction into golf technology, especially golf reservation technology. After Golf Channel purchased Golf Now, they bought us next. So Golf Now got a big number. We got half of that number. And but in that acquisition, I got to know the people at Golf Now, and they asked me to join the company, and we were going to go build this really big company, which we did. Honestly, it was really successful. Through all those years at Golf Now, I got exposed to a lot of merger and acquisition. We bought a lot of companies, and they were not all just about, selling tee times. We bought a lot of technology companies that were related to golf. And I just got exposed to it, just organically exposed to all these different things that operators were wanting for their clubs and for their golf courses. I always had a really strong affinity for the operator because I could see myself in the operator back in my Subway days, and so
Right.
I appreciated making payroll every other Friday and workers' comp and on and on and on. And so, but I loved the technology stuff. I loved dynamic pricing. Golf Now was nice enough to let a few of us go through some training at Cornell, and we got really, really deep into revenue management and hospitality. And so I was really lucky about that. And I just loved it. I just soaked it all up, James, from day one.
Well, and then so how did that lead into, now you've got your own advising organizing company, right? And now things have changed in the landscape of tee time, marketers and these organizations that kind of get in the tee time business. And my goodness, for those of us that have been in the business from the pen and pencil on the pencil on the tee sheet, paper tee sheet booking is when I started as a young golf professional. We were putting tee times, booking Mr. Smith on in pencil, to what is the opportunity today. What do you do now, Mike? What's your service now for the listeners and golf course operators and people in the business?
Yeah. So I believe in data. I believe that you should use data as often as you can to make decisions about your businesses. And when I was at Golf Now, one of the major roles I played was overseeing a big piece of the sales team. And I always thought to myself, if all of our sellers could know everything they could possibly know about all of our prospects, I liked our chances. And so we spent a lot of time trying to, gather data, asking all of our salespeople to go generate data, et cetera. And so after I left Golf Now, and then I actually got reconnected with some Golf Now people at T-Snap for a short while. But after I left there, I realized that there still was this problem of salespeople not having all of the data they should have to go, make them be as successful as they could be. And so I created a database, or really it's a data set. It's not right to call it a database. It's a data set of like 400 different data points about golf courses and the people that work there. And I sell that as a subscription to a whole bunch of companies in golf. And so now today, there are sales reps all around North America that know what tee sheet this golf course uses, what tee sheet they used 2 years ago, who's their website vendor, what do golfers think of them across Google, across Golf Pass, across Supreme, just like on and on and on, James. And we're trying to help all of these sales reps know as much as they can possibly know about these golf courses so that they can really bring them a more meaningful proposition. On the other side of that, I also use the data to help golf course operators and like country club general managers, et cetera, find technology that fits the way they've built their business. Because I'm a big believer in golf courses are different, from course to course to course. They have different procedures. They have different processes. And so one piece of technology actually doesn't fit perfectly for all of them. And so I help them find the tech that's going to help them get to their goals and help them achieve what they want to achieve. And so I really kind of play on both sides of the market, so to speak.
Very cool. Well, and that's why I mentioned earlier on about your website and about the Tech Caddie Podcast. I mean, if you want to learn about these technologies and these tee sheets and who's new and who's growing and who's got different features and benefits, that is the right fit for your operation. Because I couldn't agree with you more that we're all looking for this unicorn every once in a while. That's this one-stop shop for all of our solutions. But the reality is that I don't believe that exists out there. I think that's a bringing things together. And before we kind of talk about the state of the game today with technology, Mike, let's jump ahead to the future. So, Scott and I are using AI now to create videos and generate images, and we're trying to stay on the forefront of using technology to help our business, and even the platforms that we promote with our cart waiver or with our safety technology with Toolbox. These are all just applying technology to things that we've always done, that we used to do through pen and paper or through whatever. We're using technology to have an impact to help clubs be more efficient. What are these technologies, Mike, that you see that are at the forefront right now of the industry that's going to have a big impact on golf operations over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, so I am a believer that AI will disrupt just about all of this technology. So I don't know what you think, James. I look at this AI stuff as it's actually probably going to replace the concept of SaaS, the concept of software as a service. So like right now, you think about a tee sheet really being some software that you subscribe to, right? Every month you're paying for your tee sheet, and it's almost certainly in the cloud, and you log into your tee sheet and you can manage it and move things around, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we're just going to get to a place where we're going to enter in a prompt that says, spin me up a reservation sheet for golf that works over the next 365 days. And it does this, this, and this. And you probably won't have a subscription fee anymore. You might have some kind of an AI subscription. I have an AI subscription with Chat. I have an AI subscription with Google, right? You'll probably have an AI subscription. I'm not positive you're going to have a classic software subscription. And so I think that that's going to create a huge change in golf technology.
Yeah. So while we're on that topic, and because it might be a question later on, but it's relevant now. What do you think that the golf industry is slow to adapt to technology, medium to adapt to technology, quick to adapt to technology? And no matter what the answer is there, what do you think are the challenges that operators are facing in adapting to these kind of concepts, this kind of technology? Talk about automated mowers. We talk about the various different platforms that are out there that is using technology to help people do their business better. There's lots of companies that are embracing AI as part of their service. But there's also some clubs, once again, that, they sit down to write a letter from scratch without using any help. What are your thoughts, Mike, about the industry as a whole embracing this new technology and getting to that place to let it use everything that it could possibly use for it?
Okay, so even though we feel like Troon is a really big company and they manage 800, 900 golf courses, what have you, or have a business relationship, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of golf courses, even though that exists, and then a Kemper and a Landscapes, et cetera, Golf BC, I think in your area, even those exist. Golf, at least in North America, is really a collection, a very fragmented collection of a ton of independently owned bed and breakfasts. Now, I don't mean that people are sleeping there, but just for an analogy, just think of the analogy of like, oh yeah, Sue and Jim that own that B&B in Cape Cod. Well, that's really what the golf course industry is in North America. And so you get a couple of things that emanate out of that. And again, I have a ton of respect for these people. Like I actually love these people, right? They're really stressed. They're running all kinds of different jobs out of this thing. And I just have a lot of respect for them. But two things that emanate from this fragmented world. One, we get a lot of owner operators that see themselves as the customer. So this is an interesting psychological piece. They see themselves as the customer of the golf course. And would I want to experience X if I was the golfer here? that sometimes stands in the way of profitability, frankly. That sometimes stands in the way of progress of like, hey, yeah, I mean, the way we should think about it is I want to keep as many customers as I can, and I want to grow my customer base. But the reason I exist is to be profitable. That's the reason I own this golf course, is to be profitable. Sometimes we get a little confused about that. I think some of that comes from the fact that golf courses were handed down from generation to generation. At one time, that golf course was corn, and there's this the emotional attachment to, it's not a business. I'm here to serve the greater good or something like that. That can get in the way. The other thing that frankly gets in the way is because we are this collection of independent small businesses, you don't have the benefit of 4,000 employees all rowing in the same direction, trying to grow a larger business. And as they try to grow that business, they find about this opportunity to improve efficiency, or they find out about this opportunity to reduce friction or something like that. Often in a much smaller business, we're a little hamstrung when it comes to new ideas coming in and adopting and running with them. Go back to my mention of Subway. One of the benefits that franchises have is at least you've got a base of franchisees that are all trying to accomplish the same thing, and they're sharing ideas, best practices, and then you kind of have this home office that is almost mandating improving best practices as we go along. Again, we don't have that in golf. And so there are times where we don't evolve as quickly as maybe we would like to see the business evolve. But again, that's just part of it, James. I don't know that we should be saying, oh, yeah, we have to change that. That's just the reality of this business. This is the business we chose to be in. And so we have to try to live within that and make the best of it as we can.
Well, and I think what's fascinating about that is a couple of things. One is that as much as we talk about the Troons of the world and the many MCOs that do wonderful work and have a place and a very important part of the ecosystem, I learned a long time ago to not assume that there's some incredibly well-oiled machines that are have got this head office with 40 HR people doing stuff, or this group over here that's exploring technology. The reality is that our business is always fragmented because it's a people business. You're always trying to find leaders. It doesn't matter, like a franchise like Subway that's got a very small, little, consistent kind of excellent experience, but is manageable. You then talk about a golf course where you got to know how to grow grass, make a burger, market, do finances, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many challenging elements of that. And so, Mike, it leads into my kind of, I think, next question, which is, you talk about technology and we talk about all that's out there, yet the golf industry still hasn't, as a whole, implemented dynamic pricing strategies that helps an operator. Like we still, if I stand in a room of 100 operators and say, how many of you are using dynamic pricing? I don't get 100 people putting their hand up. Not at all. Not whatsoever. Okay,
but let me go back to they see themselves as the customer piece, because this is really where it lines up so well. You're hard pressed to find a whole bunch of people that are okay with the idea of the guy in front of me paid less for the tee time than I paid. Okay, there's just people are fundamentally, they don't love that idea that somebody got the same product that I got and he or she paid less. Which is going to happen in dynamic pricing, okay?
But we accept it in the hotels. We accept it in airfare. We accept it in many other elements. We accept it in the resale market.
Right, but in golf, the owner-operator wouldn't do that to him or herself, and so they don't want to do it to their customer. They literally, if you have longer, deep conversations about dynamic pricing with people that don't do it today, you will ultimately hear them say, I don't want to do that to my customer. Yes. And then I say, but Ellen, it's not about doing it to your customer. It's about us trying to help you make more money. I want to make it easier for you to put your kids through college, to maybe have a vacation home or what have you. But again, Ellen is wired in a way that she doesn't want to do that to her customer. And so it's tough, James. Because actually, how can I not respect Ellen? I mean, I think she has somewhere in there a fair point. And so it's difficult and it will take time. And honestly, it will probably be Ellen's daughter or Ellen's nephew that will ultimately institute dynamic pricing.
Or it'll be the irrigation system blew up and they realize that they really don't have, the capital funds put away for the roof and the irrigation system and the pump house and the carts. And, our business is so capital intensive.
Yes.
And I think that the challenge is, it's just common that when you go into a club and you do kind of an audit or review of capital planning, not to be negative or generalized, but lots of times there just isn't a really good plan. And not only a really good plan, but there isn't a revenue model that is going to be able to pay for that in 5 years and 7 years and 9 years, right? So it is fascinating. And so let's switch gears a little bit, Mike, because you write a blog and are a great communicator on LinkedIn. For those people, you got to follow Mike on LinkedIn and watch his posts. And I feel like you're Switzerland, but I'm not totally sure if you're Switzerland yet. I'm still JSO, as we call that. Jury's still out on that one, because you do present all kinds of different perspectives on how operators can use technology, but also the pros and cons of different technologies out there. And one of the things that's in the news these days, Mike, is things like Google and Tee Time. I know you just wrote something the other day about Golf Now. It's really, I try to explain to operators that get it, understand that their database is the most important. Their customer and their knowledge of their customer, whether it's if they're doing 30,000 rounds of golf and they've got 10,000 customers coming 3 times a year, hypothetically, those 10,000 individuals is the most important part of their business success in increasing and growing their business, right? Getting them to spend $2 more, getting them to come one more time, getting them to bring a friend, getting them to sign up for Easter brunch, whatever it might be. And so when that database or that influence is being impacted by other sources like Google, like third parties, what are your thoughts on all of that, Mike, on the pros and cons of those types of things?
Okay. So I appreciate the question. And first of all, I do want to be Switzerland. Okay. And I would even say to you, if you see me not being Switzerland, I hope you'll call me on it. Right. Okay. Because it's not. I
have not seen you not be Switzerland.
It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Right. No. I mean, I would readily acknowledge that. There are times that I will hold all of the technology companies to task because I am, it's just in my DNA, James. I'm going to ultimately be on the side of the operator. It's just how I'm wired. Okay. Yeah. When I was at Golf Now, you can ask some of these people, we had a dollar jar. Now it was only my team. Okay. And I think that that's important. There's some context here. We had a dollar jar for my team. Early on, I only managed the Midwest. Ultimately, I managed bigger teams, but early on, I managed the Midwest. We had a dollar jar on my team. If you said anything negative about an operator, obviously the operator couldn't hear you, but if you said anything negative about an operator, you put $1 in the jar. I couldn't stand it that there were people that would speak ill of our customer, right? And so I get a little bristly on some of that stuff. And so like, the other day, I think I put something on LinkedIn and I said, how many technology companies are sending emails to their new clients, congratulating them on the first online tee time they just sold, with XYZ system, right? Hey, you're a new customer of XYZ tee sheet. You just sold your first online round. Way to go, Jim. Keep it up, right? How many companies are congratulating them on your 1,000th tee time this year, something like that? James, I don't think that's happening. And it that doesn't lend itself to getting operators to lean into technology more. You know who does do that? You guys know, because you have a YouTube channel. YouTube does that. YouTube sends you a note and says, you just got your 500 subscriber. You just did this. I don't know why we're not doing that in golf. And so sometimes I'll do that, James. I'll hold the industry to task. Sometimes I've caught a lot of flack, especially last year. We publish system outages on our LinkedIn channel. We want golf operators to know XYZ system is out right now, or it's struggling with a technology item. By the way, I salute the company, the tech companies that publicly put that information out there. I think that's the right way to do it. Because I've got an audience that kind of dials in, I just try to elevate it more so everyone knows what's going on. I catch a lot of flack for that. But again, I'm doing that for the operator, right? I'm doing that so the operator understands what's going on. At the same time, I try to congratulate people. I give a lot of companies a lot of earned media. I give Lightspeed, I think Lightspeed's a partner of yours. We went back and looked at earned media through my channels. Lightspeed got more earned media than any company that is out there. Lightspeed's not a customer of mine, right? I mean, I'm sure I have customers that think, how come you talk about Lightspeed so much? Well, they come up a lot in conversations. They do a lot of good things, So why would I not talk about that?
So Mike, you would have, obviously you probably would have got some. There are definitely operators and organizations that were not happy with Golf Now getting into the teaching business many years ago.
Yes,
many moons ago. Now we've got this whole Google, and now Google Reserve and other kinds of things. So what advice do you give operators would you give an operator about the pros and cons of that, or about what's your position on that from an owner, operator, manager standpoint?
Specific to Golf Now? Is that what you're asking?
No, specific to Google or Google Reserve or any kind of, controlling your tee time inventory, I guess, integrating third-party booking platforms.
Well, so here's the first thing I would say. And I hope people take this to heart. If there's there's probably going to be 2 points as takeaways. One, you have to be your own customer. I know that sounds wonky, but what I mean by that is, if you're working with Golf Now or you're working with Chrono Golf, which is Lightspeed, Supreme Golf, go on their site once a month and buy a tee time from yourself. You will learn so much about how you're positioning your company, your golf course. You might think that Golf Now is positioning you that way. They are not. You have a lot of control over that. Go and shop yourself, okay? Go do that on those 3 marketplaces. And if you're going to shop yourself on Golf Now once a month, shop yourself on your own booking engine, on your own website, twice a month, every other week. You will learn so much about what thousands of golfers are seeing when they're interacting with your golf course, and you will quickly start to make changes. You'll quickly start to learn, but I can tweak this and it will work so much better for me. We can deploy this strategy and it will work so much better for me. But James, I think you probably know this. I'm saying like 95% of owner operators today, 95% of general managers, they're not shopping their own stuff digitally. They do look at their front door. They do look at, is the front door clean? Is the golf shop straightened and neat and professional? Matter of fact, the PGA of America has done an amazing job of giving awards to essentially convince people to keep it neat and clean and professional. So they do it in a physical sense. They don't do it so much in a digital sense. And they should do that. Same goes with Google. You've got to search your golf course and then pay attention to the panel that comes up, which is like your golf course details. Some people are going to learn that they haven't claimed their Google business. That's a miss. We need to get that taken care of. Some people will learn that there are reviews on there that no one has responded to. That's a big miss. Some people will learn that they haven't put like a booking link in their business profile, and no one can really ultimately, find their way to their booking engine to buy a tee time. So you got to shop yourself on the tee time marketplaces. Even if you're not a customer, by the way, of Golf Now, why don't you go look for your golf course on Golf Now? It's in your interest. It will behoove you to do that. So you need to go look at yourself in these marketplaces. You need to look at how you're presented through Google. Might as well do Bing too while you're at it, but Google for sure. But then most importantly, you got to shop your own website. You got to shop your website on a mobile device, on a phone. You got to shop it on a desktop. You got to be asking yourself, could we be doing more with our website? A lot of people are kind of, they're down on email. They don't, does my email database matter as much? Back up a second. Email is an incredible app. Think about that. You can, instead of putting stuff in the mail, I can electronically send to 4,000 people in one click. They're not all going to read it. I get it. But it was pretty much free for me to send. And as long as I don't abuse it, it can be a pretty good vehicle for me to get my messaging out. And so you should be caring about how people opt into your emails, via your website or whatnot.
Just on that note, real quick. I mean, I always try to preach the message of educate, entertain, and then sell. Like, your emails don't need to always be, we've got a golf shop special, Pro V1's on sale. It can be an update. It can be a blog. It can be a story. It can be about, this is who won the men's night last week. Here's the ladies' day clinic and what you're going to learn. And here's a swing tip. I mean, there's so many different ways you can educate and entertain people through email communications that they will get, brings them a relationship to your course, to your club, that you're not just there as a portal to take their money. You're there to help them enjoy and experience the game of golf. And then, yes, every once in a while you might put in there, sign up today for the year-end event. But there's so many different ways. And I know you're a HubSpot guy, and you've been helping us learn the mastery of so much what you can do with email and HubSpot and drip campaigns and all that stuff. And kind of I'm segueing into my next question, which is, the reason why people don't do things often, in my experience, is they're overwhelmed.
Yes,
right? They're overwhelmed. It's like, where do I go? Where do I turn? What do I do first? Well, and so I think the next question has something to do with AI and about improving operations. But I'm going to Belfast, Mike, in a couple of weeks to speak at a conference, a technology conference, and my session is about how to create an innovative team. And because all the other sessions, not all of them, but many of them, are about technology, right? Like using technology in the golf business. And I don't totally know what I'm going to say yet in my presentation, but I think it's going to be something like, it doesn't matter what technology you want to implement. If you can't get people to embrace change and to embrace the why of what you're implementing these things for, it's just another piece of technology that's going to be, another app on your phone in 5 years, right? So my question, a general question, is that there's so much great technology out there, Metolius and Notify and Toast, and there's and Lightspeed, and there's all kinds of advances in this technology. Course Rev, those some of my favorites, right? These are, Scott and I focus on how to help the operator, the manager run their business better. So unless it's technology that can help that, we're not really that interested. Yeah. And I'm more interested, and if there's 9 people that do the same thing, that's great too, but I'm really just interested in the thing, not the 9 different companies that do it. So what are some examples, I guess, that you've seen that's really impacted a course and a course owner, operator, manager?
Well, so I will say that generally ties back to things that aren't even technology related, but can be tied to how you use the tech. I do believe that you change behavior with incentives. I'm a believer in this idea of, if I want the head golf professional or the director of golf or what have you to sell more tee times, I need to incentivize him or her to sell more tee times. Now, then I'm going to give them some tools to be really good at that. And I have to, as the general manager or the owner, I have to believe that if I'm going to incentivize that person to sell more tee times and I give them some tools to do it, they will become great users of those tools. If they are not, then I might find someone to be a great user of those tools, right? But I do believe you change behavior with incentives. To think that you're going to change behavior with no kind of, carrot and stick kind of thing, I don't know that I'm a big subscriber to that. So I do think ultimately you want to get that stuff built into compensation, celebration, even if it's not compensation, at least it's public celebration, something like that to inspire the change behavior.
In the last 5 years, what technology do you think has had the greatest impact on operational efficiency or the golfer experience?
If I had to break it down into one thing, I would say the online booking engine. Some people might say the online tee sheet. I tend to think about the booking engine. If the booking engine, go back to what you said earlier. If the tee time is the number one asset at the golf course, I'm a believer in that. I subscribe to that. If that's the case, well, then how we're selling that asset, how we're selling our number one product matters a lot. And if you use a really good booking engine and you use it the right way, it should significantly reduce phone calls. That has a trickle impact on the customer experience in the golf shop, by the way. And just to tie that off, meaning the experience in the golf shop should be better if more people are booking online, because now your golf professional or your shop manager or whomever has more time to spend with individuals rather than having a phone grow out of their ear, right? So that should have a meaningful impact on the experience at the golf course, and it should have a meaningful impact on revenue. If I moved or am moving from being able to sell a tee time only while the golf shop is open to being able to sell a tee time 24 hours a day, I should make more money in theory. We know that there are golfers that are buying tee times at 11 p.m. If you don't have an online booking engine to sell them those tee times, I don't think they're buying from you. And so you start to see this booking engine actually is this pivotal thing in the golf industry today. Now, the booking engine needs to get better. One of the things I talked a lot about last year that I haven't talked a lot about this year is all of these booking engine companies set aside. So Golf Geek, I know, has done a good job of this. My understanding is GolfBack is working on it, but I'd have to get a follow-up to see if it happened. The booking engine needs to come with an analytics package that tells me how I'm converting. You would be familiar, James, with conversion as it relates to just a general online shopping cart, right? How many people got in the cart and didn't finish their sale? How many people got up to putting something in the cart but didn't even put it in the cart? Or what? There are thousands of golf operators and golf courses today that don't know what the conversion rate is of their booking engine. And so if I could get all of these tech companies to do just one thing, it wouldn't be to finish off their integration with Reserve with Google. It wouldn't be to have more integrations with Tee Time marketplaces or whatever. If I could get them to do one thing, it would be to build a great analytics package that rides along with that booking engine that tells the operator about conversion and rate and RevPad or RevPAR, depends on who you are, what terminology you like to have. A great booking engine should have all of that data at your fingertips. I don't want to hear about, we'll put your Google Tag Manager in there and then it'll work. I don't want to hear about that. I want it to work out of the box. I want a great analytics package to ride along with that booking engine so Joe and Sally in Chillicothe, Ohio know what their conversion rate is. And oh, by the way, if Joe and Sally don't have time to go figure out what their conversion rate is of their booking engine, I want an automated outbound email that tells them. That's how simple it should be. And we're just not there today, James. We're just not there.
this might be an ignorant question, but what would impact the conversion rate?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. So maybe rate impacts conversion. Maybe they visited the booking engine and there were 3 pages of rules that I had to click through before I could convert. And so if Joe and Sally, again, know what the conversion rate is, and then they can start to like benchmark it against other conversion rates of golf courses in the neighborhood, we can start to help them see, hey, we've got to simplify the booking process. We got to get rid of these rules and these regulations. We've got to get rid of if you're a single, you can't book online. Like, there's all these things that create friction in the booking process, and they shouldn't be there. Like, I mean, we ran studies at Golf Now about if a golf course showed all of their online inventory versus only 2 tee times an hour inventory, who made more money? The guy that showed all his inventory. There used to be this trepidation about, well, I don't want to look like we're empty, right? And so I'm just going to put a little bit of inventory out there on the internet. Turns out we ran our study and we proved everybody needed to put all their inventory out there. If I don't have the basic metrics to measure the engine, it's hard to know about those things, right? I've got to have some measurements so I can at least have a starting point of building a better strategy of making it easier for people to buy my inventory.
So I'm going to take from all that there are good booking engines and less good booking engines. And therefore, I have opinions and enough experience in the business to know that there are POS systems that I like, and there's POS systems that I'm challenged by.
Mm-hmm.
What should operators do? Like what consideration should an operator have when selecting a POS system? And also, the pros and cons of changing your POS system, right? Often it's just like, oh my God, it's overwhelming, to change my POS system. And sometimes I say, well, yeah, but if it's going to make you $50,000 more
right
this year because you've got this whistle and this bell, guess what? You should go through a little pain for a couple of weeks in February and change your POS system. So, but what's your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, so we do this for golf courses, James. We've done it for groups of golf courses. This individual, or it turns out it'll be 3 different people collectively own 6 golf courses with different percentages or what have you. And then certainly we've done it for one-offs. We actually do an RFP process, James, for golf courses. Now, I know RFPs remind a lot of people of like municipalities. I happen to be a believer in doing RFPs just for private, publicly owned golf courses, right?
100%.
Forget about cities.
3 prices.
Right.
It's 3 prices. If you want to buy a golf cart, or you want to buy a POS system, or you want to change your food supplier, I need 3 prices to make a decision.
And so the first thing we do, to get back to your original question on this, the first thing we do is we interview the operator. Sometimes it's a digital interview because they don't have time and they need to do it at 1 a.m. But anyway, we interview the operator and we talk about what is it that you're trying to accomplish. And you'd be surprised. Some people will tell us, I want to crush it on Friday nights. I want to fill the bar up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's my avenue to success. Okay, got it. So other people will say, Mike, I got to sell way more memberships, right? And we get confused in the golf shop when different members check in with different, levels of membership, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I got it, right? We go from that interview and then listen, I'm lucky. I've been in the industry a long time. I know who's really good at semi-private golf courses. I know who's really good at just hardcore public beer and hot dog golf course. Right? I just know who's good at that stuff. And then we invite them. I typically will call a VP or a director of sales or something like that. And I'll say, listen, I can't tell you who the golf course is. And you're going to be at least one of 4 that are going to bid on this business, but I can give you the profile. I can tell you what I'm looking for. And oh, by the way, I want you to reply digitally because I'm going to share it with my client. I don't want my client to think I've filtered this in any way, right?
Right.
And so now forget about me for a second. Forget about us doing that for people. The answer to your question about changing POS or should you change, you got to figure out what your goals are. You got to figure out, like, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? Am I here to sell omelets, or am I here to sell tea times? Or maybe I'm here to sell both, right? And you got to go through a series of questions, understand what your short-term and long-term goals are, and then let's figure out if the tech you have today can get you there, or if you need to make a change. Because honestly, James, we've worked for several golf courses where we came back and said, you have the tech that you should have. We're just not using it the right way. So let us help you use it in a better way.
Yeah. And I would say that in particular nowadays, like these companies are like, one of the things we love about Lightspeed, one of the reasons why we integrated our digital cart waiver with Lightspeed first is because Lightspeed loves integration. They love open platform integration. So making our digital waiver on their tee sheet is an obvious win-win for us and win-win for the customers. And then after that, we'll figure out who else wants to integrate, what other POS system want to integrate. But some of them don't, Mike. And that's okay too. That's fine. But I do think that from an operator standpoint, there's so much changing technology out there from a POS and a booking engine and a T-sheet standpoint, analytics and things like this, that, like you said, it behooves us to not explore it, to not have that conversation, to not just say, well, this is what we have and this is what we're going to keep using for the next 5 more years, because some companies are really moving the needle and some companies are moving less of a needle and some companies are just staying stagnant. Yeah. And I think as an operator, you want to know what are all your options are.
And let me just a little piece of advice. Watch out for the auto renewal. You talk about like people kind of get stuck with what they have or what have. Well, I would just defend a whole bunch of operators out there that they're not stuck. They just got really busy and an auto renewal snuck up on them. Right. And and I know there are technology companies that bristle when I say this, but the reality of it is, if I'm looking out for the operator, here's my suggestion: you sign your 3-year agreement, which by the way you shouldn't. No one should be signing a 3-year technology agreement in golf right now. Max 2, preferably 1. Okay, you sign your agreement. It's got some auto renewal clause in it. You should immediately send a notification that I do not want you to auto renew my agreement. Now, that does not mean you're going to fire these people.
Right.
What it means is you do not get to auto renew this thing without having a conversation with me. Right. And so that would be another best practice. And look, I will say, I can put my money where my mouth is. My customers, almost all my customers, sign a 12-month agreement. And then they go month to month with me. Like, I don't even ask people to re-up for another year. At 1 year, I have covered my expenses. I've made a little bit of money, etc. There's no reason for me not to go 30 days with everybody there on after, because it keeps me on my toes. It's important that my product performs, my service performs. And so I can put my money where my mouth is on that. I'm a 1-year, 30-day renewal guy. I'd like to see more of that in the tech space.
Yeah, no, totally true. And so let's move to this technology. So I think the next question talks about apps, customer engagement, but I also want to kind of collect into this conversation around various different strategies and technology. So, you got Notify, here's the ones that I speak about: Notify, Course Rev. So Notify is golfer doesn't show up. Or you get a cancellation, sends a text to people that want to play. They're not the only game in town. There's other apps and programs that do this, obviously. Course Rev with now some AI automated voice answering service that I love how that alleviates the shop staff to be with the customer as opposed to being on the phone. One of the things that I hate. and we don't have, most people don't have a staff member that can be dedicated to answering the phone in person. Some places do. We love that if you can. There's Metolius with their data analysis of the tee sheet. Once again, I don't believe they're the only game in town. There's others that are out there. If you're an operator and you're just one golf course and you're just, you got lots going on and you're making these decisions and you can only delegate so much stuff. Are there, and I know you're Switzerland, but are there some things that you think an operator can kind of should have, in their platform, right? It's like if you don't have a way to order food from your golf cart GPS or from your app or from some other app, so that golfers can order a burger on the 8th tee box and pick it up on the 9th green, you're missing out. You're just missing out on the opportunity. So however you do it, you got to do it. But
so I do believe, and I know Mana at CourseRev, and that's also Del Ratcliffe, and so whether it's CourseRev or something similar, although I'm more familiar with CourseRev, they talk to me more than anybody else in that space. I believe that makes sense. Now, I want to be sensitive to budgets, right? I mean, I'm not suggesting that you just should go spend $1 million and you're going to make $2 million back, right? So I want to be sensitive to people's budgets, and
it doesn't cost $1 million. We'll just tell our listeners that it doesn't cost $1 million.
Exactly, it does not even cost close to that, right? So I want to be sensitive to that, but I very much like the idea of an automated attendant answering the phone. I think that makes a lot of, assuming the experience is good and the tee time can get booked, et cetera, et cetera. I also very much, listen, kudos to Dathan Wong and Jake Gordon for coming up with Notify. We all could have come up with that 10 years ago and we didn't. Okay. Yeah. So pretty cool that they did that. But yes, you want to have something in place to help you backfill cancellations. Now, and I think the people at Notify know, I believe that you should, and I think that they agree with me, by the way, more operators should have probably a little stricter policy when it comes to cancellations. If, you got to cancel, really, you should be canceling 48 hours out. And the concept around that is because you got to give the operator time to resell the daggone tee time, right? And so, but I know a lot of people have a 24-hour cancellation policy. Golf courses that don't have a cancellation policy, that concerns me. I think we need to change that. So a vehicle to help you backfill cancellations, yes. Something to help you with the phones, yes. I'm a big believer in remarketing. Remarketing should be simple to do and bring people back. Listen, if you believe in just simple math, get all of your golfers that play 4 times a year to play 5. Just get them to do one more round at your golf course. The revenue's crazy on the math on that, right? So what can we do? And this is a term that we used to talk about at Golf Now. What can we do to grab a larger share of the golfer wallet, right? I want a larger share of the golfer wallet. And how can I use technology to get me there? Well, that's where remarketing is a big deal, right?
Nick, I've been in thousands of golf shops, and I have never once been asked when I'm paying for my tee time, would I like to book another round of golf while I'm there?
Right. Yep.
Never once.
Would it be okay, James, if I send you a 15% off coupon for your next round? Would you be okay with that, James? These are the things.
Whatever it might be.
Yep. These are the things that we can do to grow revenue. I'm also I am a believer in understanding pace of play. I am a believer in, if a golf course is known for good pace of play, you will ultimately acquire more customers. Golfers talk to each other, and when you're in your local market, you get to know the golf courses that are fast and the golf courses that are slow. And obviously, there's a math piece to being fast. You can just sell more tee times. But if you need to use some technology to help you speed up the pace of play in your golf course, I believe that is a sensible investment to make. So I don't want to leave out that piece of it either.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to add to that because not to use any bad words, but no matter what technology you have, if the experience is like every single time a player's assistant drives by me on the golf course and simply says, "Hi, how's it going?" You're like, we had this conversation yesterday. It's like, how often does the player assistant, the marshal, the ambassador, whatever you call them, right? Just they're driving around the loop as opposed to, hey, here's what's happening. Here's where things are. You should be fine for the next 4 or 5 holes. Right now, because, by the way, it was a slow round of golf, slower than usual. Because Mike, we have this technology, but we are also sometimes afraid to use it. You have to use that technology and then go to Mr. and Mrs. Smith that play at 5-hour and half-hour pace every single time they tee it up and say, guess what? We have the technology. We have the data. You're the slowest 2 people in our membership. Here's your money back because you are costing me 400 times more than I'm getting from you when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Like we use technology sometimes. It's like you talk about cancellation policies. And this is what I want to kind of finish off with because we're running out of time. But I have this saying, Mike, that no one likes to hear, which I say, if you were broken before COVID, you're still broken. Unless you have changed your service, your experience, your sales, your data, your processes, the 20% growth on your tee sheet right now, the demand on your tee sheet right now was caused by a pandemic, not because the golf industry all of a sudden got 20% better. And so I worry about people falling into this laziness around creating loyalty and striving for that extra half round of golf from each person, like striving to capture that email to add to our database, striving to sell one more hot dog or whatever it might be, because I do think that we need to make hay while the sun shines as much as we possibly can. So that gives my last question to you, Mike. Like, what's the metrics that an operator, like, how do you, if it's going to cost me X thousands of dollars to put in Tag Marshal, and Tag Marshal is going to tell me, this is going to do this, do that, do the other thing. But I'm an operator. It's like I only have so many thousands of dollars to invest in technology. What do you think are some of the key metrics that should be used as that decision maker about? Is it just the net bottom dollar? Is it? Well, you tell me.
Yeah. So I've just taken on this role with the Ohio Golf Course Owners Association, right? And we're helping them grow their membership and that kind of thing. And so we're talking to that group right now about let's try to figure out what technology increases revenue and what technology maybe is built to save or reduce spend. If I'm looking at increasing revenue, obviously it's easy to try to figure out what ROI is on that, but I need to know a couple of metrics when I start and when I finish. So like one key metric that we don't talk about enough is RevPAT. So RevPAT would stand for revenue per available tee time, and respectfully, some other people call it RevPAR, revenue per available round. It doesn't matter, right? But we need to understand not what your average rate is, because you could sell 3 rounds of golf for $100 a piece and have an average rate of $100. That's not going to pay the bank, right? Like that's not going to work. We need to know today we had an available 224 golfers. We sold 100 of them. We brought in X dollars. And so therefore our RevPAT, how much revenue did we make per that 224 spots? That's our RevPAT number. Yes. I should know my RevPAT number every single day. I should catalog it. I should be able to refer to it. I should even be able to understand what my RevPAT is in certain day parts, right? So if we're not tracking RevPAT, we need to track RevPAT, okay? I know we're running out of time. There's a couple, gross revenue matters. What's the total dollar figure that came in? And then the other thing I would encourage people to understand is revenue as it relates to cost of goods. So like this revenue, what were the expenses associated with that type of revenue versus this type of revenue? So maybe my candy bar revenue comes with some high expense rate. My tea time revenue really just has some fixed costs, right? I don't have all these ancillary costs that go along with my tea time revenue. Understanding those three things, gross dollars, rev pat, and then the cost of my revenue by different sector. Those would be three things. I think everybody knows gross revenue, but the other two, I don't think people think about those enough.
I love it. Mike, thank you so much. Some great insights, some great advice for our owners and operators and managers and our Gig Nation. How can Gig Nation get in touch with you to learn more about Tech Caddie Podcast, SMB Golf, and all the other services that you provide? Yeah,
so I appreciate it. So, my email is simple. It's just Mike@smbGOLF, and that SMB, it stands for, small, medium business golf, because that's just how I'm wired. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, Mike Hendrix on LinkedIn, or Mr. M. Hendrix on LinkedIn. And then the Tech Caddie Podcast, which I just enjoy. I enjoy having the conversations. I'm on YouTube and Apple and Spotify, just Tech Caddie. With a CADDIE.
Love it. Mike, thank you so much for sharing with our audience. Really appreciate it. Have a great season. Look forward to chatting you again soon.
Thanks, James. Really appreciate the invitation, and good luck in your travels.
Thanks so much. Gig Nation, thanks for listening. As always, we're here to help, to support you. If there's anything you need, any questions you have about this podcast or any other thing that's going on right now in the world of golf, let us know. But otherwise, as always, we will see you on the inside.